Well, good morning, everybody. This is Sandy with Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona, and I hope you're having a fabulous Monday morning. Sometimes people dread Monday mornings, but I'm not really sure why. Probably because they've enjoyed the weekend, the start of the work week, but really, it can be the start of an exciting thing, and we're going to talk about that today. Julie says, good morning. She doesn't usually have Mondays off. Weird scheduling happened this week. See you soon. Um, I saw the comment on your short asking if it's January in Arizona. I think they meant winter. Um, yes, it was this weekend. I was at Art in the Park, which is a festival at a booth. Oh, hello, Cheryl. Good morning. And so I had a booth. It was like disaster. Not the festival itself, but Friday you're supposed to set up your tent, and it was cold. So, but we had to be there at a certain time because I don't actually have a tent down here like I have back in Wyoming. And so there's a group that you could apply and they would let you have a tent, a couple chairs, a wall, um, one table. So we went over and we set that part up. It's got these great big concrete um, things that hold the tent down. And I had the glass all in my car. And then I thought, well, I'll just wait till later because we don't have to have it done until 5 o'clock. And so I went home and um, I get a phone call and my friend's going, has anybody called you yet? And I said, no, why would they be calling me? And my tent had got lifted up with the wind and it literally was tumbling. And those concrete things, the guy said they were like marshmallows. They were just flying. I was so happy that no one got hurt. Did break the leg on the tent, but the group that I got the tent from just replaced it for me, and they said they could just order a new post. And I did offer to pay for it, but they said no. That was just one of those things that there was nothing that anybody could control. So that was very kind of them. Cheryl says, hoping everyone's staying warm. 29 degrees in central New York. Woo-hoo! It's 57 degrees here today. It's supposed to be in the mid 70s. Well, hello. Good morning. I have to be on the phone, so I will leave this running. That's so sweet of you. Thanks, Wendy. Um, yeah, the wind was crazy. And even at the festival, there was a few times that there was gusts, and the poor young couple that were kind of kitty corner for me. I felt bad for them 3 times. The wind caught their stuff and it went flying. And so I was like holding onto one of the poles because it's expensive. And we're talking about money today anyway. And I just felt really bad for them that things went tumbling, and it's a grassy park. And so then you get all that grass on your stuff, their t-shirts went flying a couple times. It was just, that's right. It's a crazy wind year. All the palms around here that weren't trimmed, they are now. Yeah, there's a lot of those, I think they call them fronds, maybe, those little sections that if people haven't trimmed them up tight, they're all over the place. I saw some on a whole bunch of people's roofs, but by Wednesday it's going to be 80 degrees. But today we're talking about money. We're talking about money that's more than a number. And sometimes, there's been lots of studies on this, of how money affects us, what it does. Now, have you ever heard somebody say, if I had a lot of money, I would do this and this and this, and I would be generous, and I would donate to here and donate to there. But the thing is, when you do become wealthy, if you haven't changed that mindset, that inner thing inside of you, then all of a sudden, where maybe if you had planned on giving 10%, you made $1,000, you gave $100. But now all of a sudden you have $100,000. 10% of that is a lot more money. And so you're going to be going, if you haven't changed that mindset, you're going to be thinking, oh, I don't know, that's just too much money. I really can't do that. But if you have that heart of giving, that you're just used to that. So, but there is a lot of studies. If you, I mean, you could just do a search online about the study of thought and behavior when it comes to money. So I was reading a lot of things. Actually, I'm changing my life this year. I have some big goals when it comes to money. Um, and I've always believed that money should be a tool, you know, like when I buy things for my business of glass or art, um, I have it in mind that I'm spending this much money for this outcome. So I think if you know yourself, and then you got to know your money. Now, how many of you guys have ever just sat down and said, okay, this is my expenses. This is the amount of money I make. What can I do to change that? Julie says there was a recent study that up to a certain amount per year, people feel happier and more secure. More than that, it doesn't make a difference. Right, because a lot of times you'll hear people, even like young people, they're going off to college. Well, I'm going to make $100,000, $200,000 when I get out of college. Um, but then you got to say, why? Why is that a goal for you? Why is that important to you? Because if you don't know your money, how are you going to spend it? How are you going to allocate the different things? So it's really interesting us as humans on why we spend money or why we don't spend money. Now, there's the people with a good heart that are going to be giving, and those people will give even when they don't hardly have any money whatsoever. You know, the elderly lady that has actually no extra money, but she does have the ability to make pies for somebody, make bread for somebody, do that special thing for somebody. And so money isn't always dollars. Money can be a lot of things. You know, I love the whole bartering system that just because you don't do physical money, you can literally barter a service, barter your vegetables, something that you do, something that you make for a different end result. And I think that's a fascinating, underused tool of money. Have any of you guys ever bartered anything? Julie says, there's also giving of time. Volunteering means the organization doesn't have to hire someone. So true. Um, if there's a nonprofits in your area, they are never going to turn you away. They need volunteers. And all those volunteers doing little tiny jobs make it so that it's possible to, to do the mission of that nonprofit. Giving your time at schools is amazing tool of money, even though you're not exchanging actual paper money. Now there are things. Um, money can be heartbreaking in the hands of a gambler. It can bring ruin to a family. And there's a lot of help out there. And but then on the other side, there's just as much problem with somebody that is a hoarder of money, that I want to do I want this much money or this much gold or this much silver or this much stocks or however you're doing it. And you say to yourself, well, when it gets to this point, but then you don't do anything with that. When it gets to that level, then it's always you're going to hoard it, and it's going to go, you're going to say to yourself, well, if it just gets to this point, we'll just take silver for example. Um, I think it's trading right now at 80, something like that, an ounce. Now, I think you should always have a certain amount of gold and silver. It's a security that is unlike anything else, um, different than stocks, bonds, um, anything like that. I think even if you have just a few little coins, I think it's a security that is beneficial. Um, but don't be a hoarder of that. If there are people in need, or if your family is in need, the idea that, well, it's going to go from this $80 to $200 or $400, I'm not selling it. I'm not doing it, even though you are hurting your family itself because of that. That's it's questionable to me. It's questionable of the heart of what is more important. Now, do you have a good relationship with money? Do you look at it as a tool? I think that's important. Now, people, why do you want money? I guess that's the thing you got to ask yourself first. Why do I want money? Why do I want money in my checking account or my savings account or in a safe or tucked in my mattress? I don't know if anybody ever does that anymore. I don't know. Um, Now, to get that money, you might have a job. You might, maybe you're selling something for a certain X amount of dollars, but you got to know your goals. You got to know why you're having that job, because to be in a job that you hate, ah, what a miserable situation. If you're in a job that you hate, I'm not saying don't quit your job, but find something that you like better, that is more fulfilling, that can give you that same amount of money. Or can you live a different lifestyle so you don't have to make that much money? If you're a high powered white collar worker and it's, you're working 80 to 120 hours a week, you're never seeing your family, you're never seeing your kids, all your weekends are um, it's just work, 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 so that you can get the dollar. That's a sad state of affairs. You know, if you work at a job that um, makes you compromise what's your core ideas, look for another job. A lot of times people will just start with a side hustle, something that they can do with their job so that eventually that other job, that entrepreneurship can take over and you don't have to work that 9 to 5 job. Those those are those are good. Do you own a house or do you rent? These are things with money. A lot of young people in big cities, they don't have the opportunity to buy a house because just the prices in a big city. So they have to rent. But there's pros and cons of both things. You know, you don't have to make so much money because you want to buy that house and then your money is all going to that house instead of enjoying life. So there's just things to think about and look at when it comes to your money. But what's your story? Are you good with it? Are you bad with it? Are you good sometimes with it? But then you go into a little, sometimes we use money when we are a little down. We have to go shopping. Did we really need those things? Um, and you might say, I'm just not good with it, and think that that's what your whole life is going to be. It doesn't have to be your whole life. You can be good with money. That's one of my goals this year, to be just so good with money. Um, you might say, no matter what I try, I never get ahead. Break it down. Um, why are you not getting ahead? What are those expenses? And Julie says, owning means you have to fix it. That's true. You have to figure those things in when it comes to your money. Not only do you have a house payment, then you have taxes, you have insurance, and you have to fix everything, and you got to mow the lawn, and you got to do the upkeep, and you got to replace the refrigerator when it breaks, and when the water line breaks out on your washer and dryer, and there's water all over your basement, you got to fix it. If you rent, the landlord does that. Pros and cons on things. I love owning my own place because I want to do what I want to do on my land. And so for me, that's worth it to me. Now, um, if you're always saying to yourself, I never get ahead, break it down and look at your expenses. Um, do you really have to have that coffee every day before you go to work? Maybe you could just have a coffee once a week and bring coffee from home the rest of the time. Do you need that new outfit? Do you need that car? When you look at cars anymore, people's payments can be 400, 700, $1,000 a month for a car. That you got to really think about your money and money as a tool. And does a less expensive car, like I think owning a newer car that you have less maintenance is a wise decision. You know, um, you got a lot of warranties and you don't have to worry about those things. But you got to really just break it down. Do you have to have that $80,000 truck? Or could you have a Ford Ranger that's going to cost you a lot less? Will it still do the things? Is it a good enough tool to meet all your needs? So um, don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Throw that whole idea out of the window. Julie says, in 2024, I tracked every income and expenditure, gave me a good baseline for where it was going. Now, this is such a great point because a lot of times we just don't realize um, how many times we have a coffee, how many times we go out to eat. Um, like I just canceled a bunch of subscriptions, though a couple of them it was tough because I really enjoy them. But I thought I actually don't need those. I'm busy. There's plenty of things for me to do um, that I don't have to I don't have to do that. But if you track it, I mean, you can just get yourself, see one of these little notebooks? You can get these at the dollar store. And you can do it every single day. Did I have any income? Did I have any expenses? You do that for a year like Julie did, and you will be shocked at how much you're spending in certain areas. And then you can look at it like your phone service can cost you a lot of money. Do they have a different plan that maybe it's not exactly the same that you have right now, but is it workable? And then it saves you 30, 50, $60 a month. It's part of your money plan. Um, Getting to that point with my car, it is better to maintain or replace. See, these are things you have to think about. We have had our truck now. Joe and I were just talking about this. I think it was yesterday even, that next year our truck will be 10 years old. Joe has been meticulous on maintaining it. He does his own oil changes. He's done all the different things that are suggested. But we bought that. Um, we actually bought it as a lease car. It was brand new. We leased it for I think it was 3 years and saved, 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 saved. So when that time was up, where it had really low miles, we were really careful with that. We only paid 300 and some dollars a month. But because we had such a low payment, we saved. And when it was done, but that lease was done, we paid a check. And so for the last 6 years, we have not had a truck payment. And not having a truck payment or not having a house payment, whew, especially when you go to retirement age, that is just like so exceptional for you. But you have to decide, Do I need to replace that? Because that's part of your money plan. Do I need to replace that car? Um, or is it good enough for X amount of years? You know, um, the older the car gets, especially if you haven't done a lot of maintenance, things start to happen. And so you just have to balance that. What's your money plan about that? The other thing that people say is, I can never be wealthy. But you really got to say, what is wealthy? What does that mean to me? If you make $20,000 a year, wealthy could be $60,000 a year. If you made $100,000 a year, maybe it's $250,000 and you would feel wealthy. So that is a perspective that people have to really think. Um, Mine was a binder with tabs and categories. Um, and you could do analyze at the back. Um, you can do so many charts online anymore, like an Excel spreadsheet, where you can just pop things in every single day. If you start that routine of popping all that income expenses every single day, and you can make those um, columns automatically add, that can automatically tell you this is what you did for that month. It can be just exceptional. If you don't have that, a piece of paper, a notebook, a binder will meet those needs. And then all of a sudden you're going, oh my gosh, this year I spent $680 on coffee, which is really pretty small for some people. But I think people don't realize if they're paying $2, $4, but some coffees anymore can be $8 and $10. You do that very many times a week, and that adds up. But you got it. What's your money plan for 2026? What are you going to do? How are you going to track it? I used to have this little notebook um, that I kept for a long time. And it, if I didn't have my purse, I just put it in my pocket. Um, if I had my purse, I would throw it in there. And anytime I would spend anything, or if I made some, I'd write it in this little book, and then I could review it every week, every month, every quarter, and at the end of the year. And it was like mind boggling. But what it happens after a few weeks when you're writing all that stuff down, what happens is like you're someplace where you might have bought that before and you go, I don't think I'm gonna buy that this time. I don't think I really need that. Or I'm gonna think about it for a week. And if it's still something I really think that could be beneficial to me and my family, then I'll get it. It changes your mindset. And that's really what you got to do. Because the more money you have, it doesn't actually change you inside. What it does is it amplifies what's inside. So, what you thought that, oh, if I make X amount of dollars a year, I'll give X amount of dollars. Uh, um, a lot of people will give 10% of what they make, either to their church or to organizations. It's pretty much a standard that people like to do. Though people do less and people do more. But 10% is a tithe. Um, but if inside you don't have that giving heart, when you make a lot more money, you're not giving a lot like you did. But if you do it all the time, if you teach your children to every time you make $10, you want to save $10, or you want to save a dollar and you want to give a dollar. It can be just something that becomes ingrained in them, part of them in their money plan, even when they're very young. Because it doesn't change you. And the idea that you will say, well, if I was rich, and then how much, how much do you want to make? It's interesting when people get to a certain amount of money, other people attack them. I find this crazy. You know, they started Amazon in the garage selling books. And then it becomes this huge company. And now all of a sudden, for years now, they're just bashing him, right? And it's like, seriously, wh where did the line get crossed that you're making too much money? There isn't a person on this planet that can't make money. I don't care what the deal is. If you wanna make some money, you can make some money. At the festival this weekend, there was 2 different booths. One of them was really big booth, and it was artwork by kids that are handicapped in some way, and they got to sell their artwork. I saw people carrying around their artwork. It was just so touching, and they would tell the people about, their artwork, and there was a young gal that wasn't too far from me, and she had these little prints of things that she had done, and she was selling them, and it was just so kind. Um, so honestly, there are ways to build you up. I mean, those kids had such pride that somebody would buy their artwork. I just found that just so heartwarming that they found the value of doing something and selling it to someone else. I love that entrepreneurship that's just like built in us. Now, are there people that never want to have their own business? Totally. And that's totally okay. For me, I've tried working in a cubicle. That's just not something I can do. But there are plenty of people that that's okay. That space is just perfect for them. There's nothing wrong with that because money, no matter how you make it, well, legally, how you make it, we don't want to talk about illegally making money. Um, it, you can just really use money as a tool. It's more than a number because a lot of times we think of money as, oh, $5,000. Wouldn't it be great to have $5,000? Who couldn't use $5,000? But you got to ask, why do you want $5,000? What are you going to do with it? What's the purpose of it? What can I benefit myself, my family, people around me? It's just a thing to look at. There's a lot of programs out there that you can, if you have a hard time with that, that you can um, pay into, and they will help you money manage. Nothing wrong with that. But honestly, if you want a good start, get yourself a notebook or a binder, and every single day you write down any income, any expenses, um, if there's an expense, why you bought it, what it's for, so that you can keep track of things like that. Um, like, I wouldn't bought a dress today. This is what you'd be writing in your notebook because I was feeling kind of down. I needed that little pickup. But if you go through the whole year and you see how many times you've done something like that, it that thing that you bought didn't fix that issue. And so you got to step back and you got to go, okay, what really was that issue? But have some big goals, some big plans, even if it's just paying off all your credit cards this year. That's all you want to do. And you can see how much more money you have each month. Now, a lot of people say, start with your smallest ones. If you have multiple things, start with your smallest ones. Um, because the interest that you're paying can really just add up. And so make some bold steps. See what you can do. Um, have a side hustle if that, if you can't affect that goal with just your income you have right now. What can you do on the side to do that? Um, and there's just a lot of opportunities. You can do markets, you can do online sales, you could um, and you could do service, you know? Maybe you love kids and people are always looking for sitters for at night or on the weekends because daycares do not provide that. Maybe that's something you can do. And just look at everything in your life. Maybe you're a welder and you could weld for people. You could weld art. You could do classes on how to weld. There's just a lot of things you can do to make that money work as a tool, because it's not just necessarily a number. Um, have some goals with it. Look at money, income. Maybe it's the barter system. It's just not always that paper that you have in your wallet or you have in your checking account. Kind of go outside that box and really just say 2026 money is a tool. And everything and every time I use it, it's a tool. And how can I just hone that skill to make that tool work for me over and over and over again? So I hope that that helps you. If you look at my last Thursday live stream that I had Thursday night, it was, can I make another $1,000 a month? And I kind of broke it down on what I'm doing. So that might be interesting and might help you a little bit. And you got to make your own plan. Put it in the comments if you need to have some more ideas. If you're watching this later, maybe there's something that you did that made money a tool that could help somebody else. But seriously, keep track of it for a year. You will just, it'll blow your mind, really. Seriously, it will blow your mind. And don't let those little tiny expenses, those little teeny things that you buy, you'll be shocked at how it adds up. And you can check it every week, you can check it each month, check it on the quarter, and check it on the year. And you will change and rock your world. Well, everybody, I'm going to let you go. It's just past my half hour that I like to keep it at. And just so you know, I already made my goal for my $1,000 more a month. And so at the end of the month, I'm just going to break it down on all the different things, all the different areas that I tried to add to make $1,000 more a month. But my festival this weekend was just like mind blowing. So I appreciate any of you guys that are watching that actually came out too. And thank you. I was just like, it was cold and it was windy and it was like, I don't think this is going to work. Grandma, she's been lurking. I'll go listen to last week's live. That sounds interesting. I'd love $1,000 more a month. That's $12,000 more a year. And I mean, that amount of money can rock your world. It can really change things. So break it down. Keep track of what you're spending. And you go to a restaurant. Do you actually have to have that steak? What about something else? You can still enjoy your evening and maybe it's half the price. There's just so many things that you can do. And you can do it. I seriously know. But have that little notebook or that binder and keep track and you will be amazed. So everybody, have a blessed day also. Yeah, it can just change your life. I appreciate you guys stopping in. You know, this is only my second week of Monday Moments. And I hope you guys appreciate it because next week we're going to talk about choices, time, money, and intention. How you can use that on your homestead or any area of your life. Hope you join that. This week on Thursday, we are talking about why I'm changing to cold canning. I have water bath. I have pressure canned. I have dehydrated. But why am I going to change to more cold canning? And we're going to talk all about that. So I will see you next time. Have a great week. And I am on day 78 of 60 seconds or less on a live, on a short. So I'm on day 78 today. That's a lot of days of having a short. See you next time.